Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Winged Victory podcast from the National Museum of World War II Aviation. I'm here with my trusty partner, Scott.
Hello, hello.
And our guest today is Arnie Easterly, lead docent and all-around amazing pilot in his day.
And bon vivant.
And bon vivant, truly bon vivant. You do know how to live well, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being had. So as we go through the development of pilots, we talked to Ashby and Johnny about their combat tours, but both of them made a remark that I thought was kind of telling. As we were walking out, they said, well, yeah, combat was kind of dangerous, but then they sent us to be instructors. And that was really dangerous. So as both a student and an instructor, you care to expand on that a bit?
Sure, that's probably pretty accurate because it's interesting. This morning we're next to this beautiful T-34 Bravo. This was the type of aircraft that was my first military trainer when I got to Sofley Field in Pensacola in 1975. It's been a while.
Hey, that was the year I was born, by the way.
Good God.
Yeah.
Now, I went to Pensacola. Basically, the T-34B is a militarized beach debonair, straight-tail Bonanza. Wonderful aircraft. I was fortunate in that I went to Pensacola with a private pilot's license in about probably close to 70 hours.
Oh, wow.
Of flight time. Paid for by the Navy. I was in Navy ROTC, University of Washington. And so they bought my private pilot's license for me. So I got there, and from day one, I could pretty much fly this airplane. So that held me in good stead. Now the whole object of flying this aircraft in VT1 was to you're only there for a couple months in that squadron, which doesn't exist anymore, by the way. They've changed the syllabus, but back then that squadron was used to kind of number one, teach people who've never flown before the very basics of flying. Great airplane for that, but also it was to rack and stack the class, so that you'd have a numerical ranking to set you up for your follow-on training, for your real training. Going to Pensacola with a private pilot's license, I had my choice. So after I finished the T-34 syllabus, I went to the T-28. So you overnight went from 245 horsepower to 1,425 horsepower, which was daunting, to say the least.
You got that massive radial in front of you. You're 16 feet off the ground.
But it was so bloody manly because you'd come taxiing in, with the canopy back, that big radial engine with soot on your cheeks, and you'd feel like Pappy Boyington. So, but VT1 was an interesting place. My first flight instructor, Black Bart Conley, he was a Marine, first lieutenant. Back as a flight instructor, Cobra pilot. Nicest guy on the planet when you're briefing with him. Just a really pleasant, nice fella, right? Until the moment you stepped on the flight line, and then it was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because he became an ultimate screamer, and every other word out of his mouth was not suitable for this podcast. And so, going through the syllabus, you're supposed to solo at about the 10th or 11th flight. Well, I was good enough to solo like the third flight on this airplane. So I knew I was doing well, but didn't matter to Bart. I'm the worst thing. I'm the worst thing that's ever been born. He can't believe that they've allowed me to come to his Marine Corps and his Navy to learn to fly, because I'm the worst scum on the planet. I can't do anything. And so one day we're flying, and Bart's berating me, and he finally said, Easterly, I've had it. I'm tired of your stuff. I'm out of here. I'm going. And I go, what does he mean? And then I hear the cockpit swirling with wind, and the rear canopy's open. I look in my mirror, and he's gone. He's actually, and his parachute strap, his shoulder harness straps are flapping in the breeze, and he's gone. And I'm looking in the mirror, and there's nobody there. And I'm thinking, now, intellectually, he didn't really leave. Okay, he didn't, but still.
He could have.
He's gone.
He's gone. Well, what he'd done is this. He had decided he was going to unstrap and duck down behind the glider shield. And then he's poking his head up like this and laughing. And I'm going, yeah, thanks a lot, Bart. At that moment, I came this close, guys, this close to rolling upside down, dropping his butt out. and let him explain why he was unstrapped. Of course, I would have been a hero because I'm just a conehead flight student, and I saved the airplane.
Third flight.
Yeah. But so that was the start of my military flying.
Well, and did you ever pull a black bart on a student?
No, I was a great flight instructor. I was very calm and passive and nurturing to my students.
Well, because we see that,
Yeah.
you know, in your day-to-day interactions with
Absolutely.
the world anyway.
Absolutely.
So the T-28 was manly.
Very manly. That was you're there. That's the airplane where you really learn to fly because you're in that squadron. In my case, it was a VT-1 at Whiting Field, outside of Milton, Florida, and that's the airplane where you really learn to fly. That was cross-country flying, night flying, instrument flying, formation flying.
So what kind of characteristics does that airplane have that you didn't like, or would make you a better pilot moving out of that? You know,
Out of the T-34, it was the performance, much higher performing aircraft. I mean, it's a basic World War II warbird.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Well, many of them served as warbirds down in South America and the
absolutely.
like, doing ground attack and
a lot of FAC work, which
Yeah.
is very difficult work. It was a wonderful airplane, extremely intimidating, scary as hell to fly. Interesting thing about
What about it is scary though? I mean, that's
just
what
the
I wanna
fact that
know.
just
the horsepower,
the horsepower, the size,
the noise.
it was visceral.
Yeah,
It's very visceral.
it's different than jumping out of this thing with the flat six
It's
or whatever.
It's
You
a
know,
difference between going and going whoa.
Yeah,
It's viscerally different doing
Okay.
that. Now, interesting thing about ours, when I started being a docent here, when I started volunteering, I wondered if I'd flown this aircraft at Whiting Field because it's of the era when I was
Yeah.
there. And I checked the bureau number, and I actually didn't. I looked at my logbook. I did fly an aircraft that was one serial number, one bureau number off from ours.
from that one.
Yeah, so this aircraft was on the flight line at Whiting Field when I was there. I just never flew it.
Well, maybe we can remedy that.
Well, I would love that. But so I asked my buddy Bruce Bannigan. He was also a Marine pilot, a friend of mine. He got out of the Marine Corps, did really well in the telecom business, so well that he owns a T-28 just like this one. That's his toy. I asked Bruce, did you fly this one? He checked his book. He said, no, I didn't fly it. But let me check one more set of books. He has his uncle's log books, who was also a Marine aviator and an instructor at Pensacola, to check. And sure enough, his uncle flew this airplane in 1959. It's in his logbook. He's got entries of SNJ, T-34C, and it's our airplane. So I told Bruce, you've got to come
Or
see it.
T-34C or
Excuse me,
T-28?
T-28C is what I meant. T-28C. So yeah, so it's got some
Small
personal
world.
history.
Now, okay, you're flying this great, massive, manly airplane, and yet you decide to go into the part of the flight program where the wings move. Why is that?
The manly side of naval aviation, helicopters. Now, truthfully, I finished well enough at Softly to go jets, jet grades. I was number 2 in my class that week. But I wanted to fly helicopters because in the Marine Corps, and this is just me talking. This is for argument's sake. But in the Marine Corps, helicopters are really closer to the action because we're hauling. Everything about the Marine Corps is the grunt. Everything is in support of the Marine Riflemen. Everything, and when you're flying, especially assault helicopters like I flew, H-46s, you're hauling the ground element in an assault. And if you're the lead H-46, you're hauling the ground element commander. He's in the lead H-46, so you're closer to the action. And also flight time. I'd flown in the back of T-2s and TA-4s as a ROTC midshipman over the summertime, and I just didn't like jet flying. I kind of preferred.
Well, I think
something
when you
else.
use that word visceral, you know,
Yeah.
and you strap into a Frog, that's a visceral airplane too.
It is. I don't know if a lot of people don't realize that when you fly a helicopter, you don't wear a parachute.
You're carrying your parachute.
Your parachute is the rotor system up above you, which has come back to bite me a time or two in the Marine Corps. Wishing I'd had a parachute. Transmission failures, blade failures, engine failures. When it would kind of be nice to leave, but anyway,
Yeah.
but you can't. But
Well-
no, and that's not to begrudge my fixed wing buddies. You know, I used to. I had classmates, friends of mine from ROTC that went jets. We had a reunion one time at El Toro. I was stationed at Tustin, and across I-5 in California is El Toro. We got together at the club, and I had 3 buddies of mine. One of them flew A4s. I'm really dating myself now. I had an A4 pilot, Joel. I had an F4 pilot and an A6 pilot, and me. And we're at the club at El Toro drinking beers, telling lies, and they're arguing which jet is the best jet. You know, and they're shooting their watches, you know,
Yeah.
like jet guys do. And I'm sitting there sipping my beer, and I finally said, you know, you guys are all the same. There's no difference between you. You're all the same. They, what do you mean? No, you're all the same. You all look the same coming up the hoist. Cold,
Exactly.
wet, and damn glad to see me. So just shut up.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that and you got a lot more time in helicopters than they did,
Yeah, because
didn't
my
they?
buddies are getting anywhere from 10 to maybe 15, 18 hours a month in jet times, because they're very expensive. If we weren't pulling 40 to 45 hours a month flying H-46s, you're slacking. So we got a lot more flight time. So it was the right choice for me. But that's not to say flying jets isn't great. I went back for a second I did one instructor tour, T-34Cs. Did a tour out in the fleet, HMX-1, went back to Pensacola for a second instructor tour, also in Cs. And there, as an aerobatics instructor, form instructor, we're yanking and banking and pulling Gs and having fun. So maybe I could have gone jets, but I don't regret going helicopters.
No, nor should you, because you went to the penultimate Marine helicopter squadron. You sort of, yeah, I had a tour in the fleet at HMX-1. That's
HMX-1, for those who don't know what that is, that's a Helicopter Marine Squadron 1. It's got 2 missions. It's got several missions, 2
Yeah.
primary missions, one of which is, it's got 3 missions at HMX-1. One is supporting the Marine Corps Combat Development Center, which is based at Quantico with all their needs, flying candidates, OCS, flying lieutenants at the basic school, being tactical for them. Second mission is to, the X in HMX stands for experimental. Their second mission is to conduct operational evaluations on anything that has to do with Marine helicopters, up to and including the MV-22 at one point. So that was what the X side of it was. So there's a large operational test and development side of HMX. And then one other mission you may have heard of is the Marine One mission, which is hauling the President of the United States and any other visiting heads of state or anyone else that the White House Military Office deems we fly. So that's probably the most public mission.
and it is the public mission that people are familiar with, and you know, I think meeting somebody who's actually done it was very interesting to me when we first met. But and I know you can't talk a lot about that, but you know, there's the doomsday part of the HMX mission.
Can't talk about that part.
Then don't.
Shut up, Rob. I can't talk about that part.
What
But
can you talk about?
Oh, the administrative side.
Okay,
of
well, let's
course.
talk about that.
Yeah, no, it was like, in many ways, it was like being the ultimate corporate pilot. You know, you're still in the Marine Corps. You're still proudly in the Marine Corps, but you spent a lot of time flying like a corporate pilot, the ultimate corporate pilot. Wonderful aircraft. When I was there, we flew the
H2?
well, no. That's a Navy ASW aircraft. Things have changed radically, and they've really changed radically just this past year with the addition of of a completely brand new helicopter, the VH-92. But when I was there, the squadron was divided into 2 sides: the green side and the white side. The green side had H-46s, H-53s, and they were the same aircraft that we flew in the regular fleet, except much cleaner and nicer with pretty shiny paint jobs. But they're still painted green. That's why they were called the green side. Their mission was to conduct those. When I mentioned we supported the local Marine establishment, those are the guys that did that. We did it with those aircraft. But we also used those aircraft in support of the White House, hauling extra gear, hauling extra Secret Service guys, press. They would fly on the green side. The white side was what we call the white side because they were white tops. They were white top VH-60s, and the most popular, the aircraft that people see mostly is the VH-3.
Okay, that's the one that looks like an H2
That's the one
to
that- yeah.
the uninitiated,
Yeah, it's
the unwashed.
quite a bit bigger, but yeah, that's the actual. That's the one that's used as Marine One most often. And again, if you don't realize that, Marine One is a call sign. It's not
Right.
an actual aircraft. Anytime the president is on a Marine helicopter, it's
Marine One.
One.
One, yeah.
And there have been cases where the president has had to fly in Green Fleet helicopters. Comes to mind when I think it was the Northridge
Oh, earthquake.
earthquake.
Yeah.
When was that? That would have been 88.
Oh, 80.
Probably 88,
Yeah,
89.
something.
That earthquake happened, and President Bush had to get out to California now, and we didn't have time to ferry the aircraft out there, so he went ahead and flew out there. Our pilots flew out ahead of him, went to a local squadron, and said, "Hey, we want to borrow your airplanes." Of course, they said yes, and we used regular fleet-side aircraft. Didn't have to use the white tops.
They were probably pretty shiny still.
They were
shinier
they were-
than a fleet
They were
bird.
still fleet aircraft, you know. And
Well,
we have
yeah.
and that's a testament, by the way, to the amount of trust we place in just a regular Marine maintenance, because these were not.
As-
Because the white side maintenance back at Quantico it's done in what's called a cage. It used to be. I'm sure it still is. But the cage was literally a cage that you had to cipher in, punch the code to even have access. And even if you didn't actually work in the cage, even though you're in the squadron, you're one of the squadron pilots, yeah, we can go in the cage anytime you want, but you kind of really should have business. You're there to see the maintenance officer, or you're there for business. You didn't take it lightly going in the cage. It was a big deal.
Well, that's a big responsibility
Mm-hmm.
for a big job, and being a Marine myself, I know that there's a zero defect mentality in much of the Marine Corps.
There it was sub-zero.
Yes, I suppose.
All the aircraft there, when I was there, were on, all the dynamic components of those aircraft were on a half-life cycle. So if it was a boost actuator that had a 5,000 hour between inspection or replacement, at 2,500 hours, it came out, got sent to Sikorsky, and Sikorsky was under as I recall, it was like a 12-hour contract that they would have a replacement part within 12 hours. So oftentimes they put it at one of their in their King Airs and fly it down, or we'd go up and get it. If the part wasn't there within like 24 hours, it was considered free to the government. So they were motivated to get us parts immediately.
Well,
Yeah,
free's a motivator.
that's it.
So you flew President Reagan and President Bush?
I was yes. It's a 4-year tour. The first year I was there, I was a co-pilot for President Reagan, and then the second year I was there, I was what's called a White House HAC, White House Aircraft Commander, and the last 2 years I was there, I was a White House Command Pilot. And the difference there, maybe our viewers would be interested in that. When you first get to the squadron, your clearance is probably not ready yet, because it takes anywhere from 9 months to a year to get a Yankee White clearance.
Yeah.
So when you first get there, you're not qualified for anything except to start building flight time. So you'll ferry the aircraft. My first flight, actually, I just got into the squadron. I was only there a couple days. My clearance isn't ready yet. They put me on they said, pack a bag, no uniforms, no flight suits, and you're going to be gone about 3 or 4 days, and go to Andrews Air Force Base. And so I went to, aye, sir, went to Andrews Air Force Base. And it was interesting because what was happening is they were going to fly the Air Force One backup out to California because President Reagan was due to come back. Now, he used to take 2 to 3 week trips out there, so he was out there for a long time. Well, it was getting ready for him to come back. They sent the backup out for his lift to fly him back to D.C. Well, the backup is empty, and it's an empty Air Force One, and so I got to ride in Air Force One, and I was the only passenger, and the crew loved it because the caterers, and everybody got to treat me as the president. So I sat in the president's chair. From the moment I sat down, I have a cocktail. They're experimenting with new hors d'oeuvres that they want to try out. So they're feeding me and
This
liquoring
is like
me up.
the ultimate Marine recruiting video.
Oh, dude, it's so cool. And I'm sitting in the president, and that's how I flew out to California. Now, Do you remember that scene in Right Stuff where they're putting on a big dog and pony show for the astronauts, and they're getting the steaks, and they're just getting all, and the guy says, "We haven't even done anything yet." That's kind of how I felt on that flight. But
and then it was all downhill from there.
Oh well. So anyway,
we're all uphill from there.
The first step is to, once your clearance happens, is to get your White House hack papers, and that means you'll be able to fly as the aircraft commander on all those missions up to Marine One. So you can fly the vice president and on down, any generals, any other VIPs. You can fly as the aircraft commander, and you'll fly as a co-pilot on Marine One missions. When you in the squadron, again, when I was there, I can't attest to how it is now. There were about roughly 60 squadrons, or 60 pilots, excuse me. And of those 60, anywhere from 6 or 7 are what are called command pilots. And what the command pilot is you're now an aircraft commander for the president. Now, it sounds like a lot of command pilots, but it takes a lot of command pilots to do.
Well, because it's a 24/7, 365 job.
Well, that and the fact that if, let's say, the president is flying to, he's flying from Andrews Air Force Base, he's going out to LA. Well, the president doesn't get on the plane at Andrews and go land in LA. That's not the point. The point is to make stops along the way. So he may go Andrews, Chicago, Omaha, Denver, Salt Lake City, because he's making either campaign stops or fundraising stops, or he's kissing babies or cutting ribbons on bridges. He's doing presidential stuff. Everywhere he stops, we have to be there before he gets there. HMX. There's always helicopters before he gets there. Now, he may not fly them. It may be a case where they're going to motorcade him, but we still have, for emergency purposes, helicopters. So we have to leapfrog it ahead of him.
Okay.
And if it involves a lift, we got to have a command pilot there. So it took a command pilot to lift him from the lawn to Andrews, but he's gonna need another lift when he gets to Chicago. Well, you got to have a command pilot waiting for him there to fly him in Chicago.
It's quite the operation going on.
The logistics are astounding.
Just to move the president from one point A to point B.
But he always has to have helicopter support no matter where he goes, worldwide.
As it should be.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, you want a story or two about the president?
Sure.
Yes.
Let's see.
Of course.
Let me think about one while I'm taking a sip.
Do take a sip. I remember one, actually, I don't think it was about a president, but one of your instructors said something about you have to land this airplane like Nancy Reagan is in the back in a white suit.
Yeah, when you're learning to fly the H-3. First of all, the H-3 is never designed to be a VIP aircraft. It was designed in the 50s as an ASW, anti-submarine warfare naval aircraft. So it has big, huge, long struts for main struts. And that's done to absorb the shock of landing on a carrier. And when you land that aircraft the Navy way, you plant it, you put it down hard. Well, the problem is these big, long struts, you're not going to land that aircraft hard. And so when you're starting to...
So compressing them.
You compress them. And so when my first training flight with the commanding officer, with Papa Bear, he says, "Yo, E-Bunny," my call sign was E-Bunny, that's for another.
Yeah.
"Yo, E-Bunny, here's what I want you to visualize when we're landing the H-3. Picture that Nancy Reagan is back in the back in a brand new white Armani linen suit with a cup of cream of tomato soup in her hand. And just keep that in mind whenever you're landing the aircraft." And so what that entailed, basically, you learn to land that aircraft. In a hover, the aircraft is slightly nose up and left wing down in a standard hover. And so what you need to learn to do is to just kiss, barely touch down the tail wheel. You'll feel it touch. Then you barely kiss the front main mount, okay? And then the technique isn't just to take off more power to put the right main mount. The actual technique is to squeeze in a tiny little bit of right rudder, and that'll force the right main mount down. And you're not landed yet, though.
No.
You've still got about 2.5 feet of strut to compress. And then you just ever so gently think about taking off power. If you just think about taking off power, that's about the right rate. And it'll just squat down gently. And if you do it correctly, you can make a nice, gentle landing. Matter of fact, I was hauling I was hauling, I wasn't hauling the president that day, I was hauling staff, primarily Secret Service guys. We were going up to Kennebunkport with President Bush, and we landed at Pease Air Force Base. Now, the radios, we had, I don't know, 22 radios on board, but some of those radios are dedicated to the Secret Service guys. They have their own radios, but I'm, as the aircraft commander, I'm listening to everything. Whenever we would land, they would always, the Secret Service guys would always say, Marine 1, or in this case, Nighthawk 6 landed. They'll call to their base. Well, it was one of those perfect days where there was just the perfect amount of wind off the nose. It was a nice, freshly paved runway, and I came in and I made it. Oh, and I'm making a running landing, which is even smoother. And I touched down on the rear wheel, kissed the left, kissed the right, and we're still rolling, and getting ready to squat. Now we're still rolling, probably doing 15 knots as we're rolling down the runway, and I hear on the radios signal, the base calling up, "Hey, Nighthawk 6, do you have a rival?" And the secret squirrel in the back says, "I don't know, I think so."
So, can't tell.
It was so smooth that he couldn't tell if we were on the deck or not. So I'm just kind of thinking, yeah,
I can do this.
yeah.
That's cool.
Let me get to what's some cool presidential stories. Let me give you one about President Reagan. Nice. What you saw, by the way, publicly, is what he really was. And what you saw was your old granddad.
Nice guy.
Who's just a nice guy. He was called the great communicator for a reason, because when he was talking to you, he was locked into you. It was eye contact, asking you questions. Didn't matter. It's like you were the only person in the room, and it just made you feel so good talking to him. But the story I like to tell about President Reagan, about he and Nancy actually, it was a true American love story. It really was. And the proof of that was one time, again, I'm a co-pilot for Reagan, but we fly up to Camp David for the weekend. The president didn't take any guests with him that weekend, so it's just he and his wife. And we flew him up on Friday. Well, the next morning, early Saturday morning, it's a beautiful, crystal clear day at the top of Camp David. It's in the Cockpit National Forest on the top of a hill. It's beautiful. Crystal clear skies, temps in the high 30s, fresh blanket of snow on the ground. The paths, by the way, don't have a speck of snow on them because the Seabees have cleaned off all the paths hours ago for him. But I'm in we're in the lodge that the pilots stayed in, I and the other 3 pilots, and I'm having my coffee, and I look out the window and I see President and Mrs. Reagan walking on a path coming where they're going to walk literally right by me, less than 10 feet away. And so I kind of duck and get behind the curtain to watch them, and so I'm spying on the president, and they're walking along hand in hand, and they stop really close, like literally 10 feet away. And he's very tall, she's really short, and he bends down for her to say something, and then he just throws his head back. I can't hear, but he's just a big, he's laughing like she told him a joke, and he bends down and gives her this nice kiss. And they hand in hand, and off they walk. And the reason that story is important is there was no press there, there was no staff there, they didn't know I was spying on them. It was just them. It's them being genuine, you know. And Nancy had a reputation for being kind of a dragon lady and being nasty. She was just very protective of him, very protective. And that's really what the source of
learned the hard way to be protective.
Yeah, she was a nervous flighter. She didn't like to fly. The president would, both of them would. They'd always come up. They'd come up to the cockpit, see who's flying, and say, you know, "Oh, how you doing, boys?" You know, like President Reagan would, and he'd see who it was and shake our hands, and he'd go back, and then Nancy would always come up after him, and she always had the same question, very worried look on her face. She'd say, "Is it going to be all right?" And what are you going to say? "Yes, ma'am, of course. It's a great day to fly, ma'am." And what are you going to say? "No, ma'am, we're going to wind up in a smoking ball." What are you going to say? You know?
Yeah, I'm a little worried about the noise in the transmission right now.
Don't worry about it. No, but she was a nervous flyer, but she was.
Well, a lot of people are.
Yeah.
I mean, those of us who love it, you know, I mean, let's face it, if you haven't been scared flying, you probably haven't flown enough.
Yeah.
I'm a pilot, and I on a Southwest flight and kind of go, "Who's up there?"
Well,
I think you always want to be a little scared, no matter. You know, I've got about probably about 15,000 hours, and you always got to be a little bit.
You got to have a little bit there.
Well,
that's how you get 15 to 20,000 hours. Is be
exactly.
A little afraid, so.
You roll in thinking, I got this wired. That's the day you should probably do something else.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, Southwest or whatever airline, not to slag on Southwest, I fly them a lot, but you give it up. You strap into that seat, your fate is not in your hands.
That's it.
So speaking about some of this stuff, like you talked about having some issues in your flying days. But I know that there was at least one story in particular that I really enjoyed was the T-34 stuck throttle.
Yeah, it was my second instructor tour. I mean, I'm instructing in a T-34C. We're coming back from the working area, heading back to Whiting Field. And we entered the course rules. They're VFR course rules so that you don't have to report a lot. But everybody abides by these course rules. And you have to be at a certain point, at a certain altitude, at a certain airspeed. And so it was a late stage training hop for my student. And he's flying back, and I'm in the back seat just relaxed, enjoying the ride. And we hit the first checkpoint to come into Whiting, and we're at max blast. I mean, throttle's all the way up, and we're doing 240 knots or something. We're blowing in, and we're supposed to be at 180 knots. And so I keyed the mic. Said, hey, stud, how about pulling the power back? He said, I can't, sir. Nothing's happening. I go, what? And I look, and the PCL is all the way back.
All the way back.
But the engine is all the way going forward.
No.
So, I got the controls, and I took the controls, and sure enough, the PCL is stuck full on. So call up ATC, call up center, or not center, but approach, let them know we're on the course rules, and to get everybody out of the way in front of us, and come into Whiting, and they had us just orbit the field to burn the gas down for an hour or so, and it came time to land, and the only way you're going to land is shut the engine off. So the time came to shut her down, and condition lever fuel shut off, and zoom climb. The reason I pulled it into zoom climbs, I've got to get my landing gear airspeed. So 150 knots gear down, 120 knots flaps down. But it's interesting because when you pull that power back, we became a glider, and so it's whoa, and the prop just kind of goes like this, full feathered, and so we're now a glider. Now I'm going to make the field because it's directly below me, but I'm at what we call a high key. I actually had a triple high key because I'm at about 7,000 feet.
Oh
now,
my!
Because I didn't make a big zoom climb, and so I'm going to make the field. There's no question about that.
Just where are you going to make
just
the field?
where you're going to make it, and so so I'm hitting all the checkpoints. Again, I'm an instructor. We do hundreds of these.
Yeah.
And I hit all the checkpoints, get my proper high key, my low key, roll to final. Now the procedure is called for on a real engine failure to blow the canopy on short final. We would simulate this when we're with students, by the way, by just adjusting the throttle a little bit. Because when we'd simulate the engine failure, we didn't shut it down. We put it to lower power setting, and then we'd simulate opening the canopy with a little bit less power, right? Well, I'm on short final. Everything is right down the groove perfectly, and I think, you know what, I'm going to blow the canopy just for fun, just to see what happens. So I pull the lever, blow the canopy, and the bottom falls out of my approach. It's just, the drag generated is like, oh, jeez. And now, I was shooting for a point a third of the way down the runway, so I've got plenty of runway, but landed well short of where I thought I was going to land because it gets your attention when that canopy opens.
Well, it's a little breezy.
Well, it's just the drag on the airplane.
I suppose.
Yeah, and so, but we landed. I saved enough energy to taxi off, so I wouldn't clobber the runway, and I was a hero for 5 minutes.
Yeah, there you go. So you didn't have to dump a guy out to become a hero after all.
No, not after all.
I don't know, dumping Black Bart out. That you would be a legend in Marine Corps aviation to this day if you had done that.
Well, that's amazing.
But you're probably a legend in Marine Corps aviation.
Well, I'm
anyway.
in my own mind, at least. Now I'm a Marine, so I guess I qualify.
So how long did your career span?
20 years. I was in the Marine Corps
20
a little over 20 years. Yeah, retired.
That's a lot going on.
Retired in '95, and then had 3 or 4 careers after that. One of which I was a pilot at US Air, flying Airbuses. Did that for a while.
So you ended up in a jet after all?
I ended up in a jet after all. I got furloughed. I was just getting ready to upgrade to captain at US Air when 9/11 happened. And so So I got furloughed, and I discovered very quickly that there's more money selling aircraft than actually flying them. So I just never went back to the airlines. So.
Smart choice. As evidenced by your current lifestyle, which is, I would say, comfortable.
Yeah.
But that's good.
Yeah.
And that allows you to hang out in our happy place.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thankful for it, because the museum's wonderful for old guys like us, because it lets us keep your finger in aviation, keep your finger talking to people about a subject that we love, and you get to hang around cool airplanes. I mean,
yeah.
Airplanes.
They won't let me fly them, those Scott. Come on, man.
They don't let me fly them either. Not enough, anyway.
Well, and that's true. I mean, I got to fly in one finally, which is the reward for being a volunteer. We don't sell rides. Insurance certainly won't permit that. But if you do volunteer, and volunteer well enough, I guess, they might let you.
And you're lucky.
Luck has a place in it, but just to, as you say, to be around these airplanes. Little story. We live and die on TripAdvisor reviews, and to be mentioned by name in those reviews is kind of a big deal. I refer to it as being mentioned in dispatches, the old British term. But I got to say that one of the names that comes up far more often than mine is Arnie's. Although we have a little thing that we do between each other as we're saying goodbye to our tours. It's like, if you like the tour, my name's Rob. If you didn't, my name's Arnie.
And I do the same thing.
Exactly. So far it's worked out. But I mean, one of the treats for me, being a non-aviator, is to be here and hear the hangar flying. Here, I've never had a student in front and had to shut an engine down. You know, my time is right seat, put it down.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I loved it. I loved it. I didn't love it enough, but no, it's been a treat, and I really appreciate you spending time with us.
Very much so.
Well, thank you
some
guys.
Very interesting stories.
And I only scratched the surface. I got a million of them.
That's okay. We need content.
Start writing those things down.
Just we may have to have the E-Bunny Redux.
All right, Arnie.
All right,
well,
guys.
thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Scotty.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, brother. Well, as I started to say at the end of this interview with Arnie, part of the really cool thing about this museum are the people.
Yes.
I mean, we heard stories from Ashby and Johnny that I'd never heard, even though I've known these guys for years, and we do a little bit of chatting around. Same with Arnie, fascinating guy.
Oh yeah.
And we barely scratched the surface of Arnie Easterly.
Yeah, the guy's got a lot of stories, because I've definitely heard a few of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we have somebody here that flew presidents around.
Yeah.
And not only that, but we got more than one guy that's done that's here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got another guy, Zorro, and
I didn't know Zorro was a.
Interesting, and you know, from a guy like me, I grew up in Southern California my whole life, so I'm an entire country away from Washington D.C.
Yeah.
You know, that whole thing is just stuff that we see in movies, and then to actually sit here and oh yeah, we did this and we did that, and you're like, what? You know, and there's things that are never going to be on camera.
Yeah.
But I get to hear a little bit of.
Well, and yeah, we need to be judicious sometimes about what we do put on camera, but you know, growing up out here, I graduated from CSU, and I thought life ended at the Front Range.
Yeah.
I didn't want anything to do with
I didn't
anything.
even know what the Rockies were. I didn't even get that far. I'm even farther west than you were.
Yeah, well, I mean, my childhood was Southern California, but I wound up through the military mostly on the East Coast, and I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed the time there. It's very different. I mean, I will always be a Westerner, but it's a very different experience, and you know, one worth checking out one of these days.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I enjoyed being in Washington, D.C. the one time I've been there. I don't know, just hearing all of his stories. I mean, you know, just even being a training pilot, you know, and the stuff that I mean, that's a daily, you're building stories daily.
Yeah.
Like you said, those guys are, you know, you don't know who's jumping out of that airplane and what they're doing and how are they gonna try to kill me today?
Well, and that is
and to be cool, calm, and collected. But I think that also goes with the, you know, when we sat here and talked to Ashby on the last episode, and he, you know, being fired at, and he said, you just trusted in your training. You know, you trained and trained and trained. And that's what you do as a pilot.
And if you're very fortunate, you've trained and trained and trained.
Yeah.
I mean, really, Ashby and Johnny went to this thing with enough training. Obviously, they're not going to throw them into the cannon's mouth, but you train and you train, but maybe you're not ever going to do it.
No, but you might. I mean, how many times are you going to jump in an airplane and then have a throttle stick full throttle on you and have nothing, and then you got to go, well, now I got to figure this out.
Well, except as you pointed out, there are procedures, and you know, Arnie recited them right down the checklist.
Exactly.
And that's the kind of pilot you want to fly with. That's the kind of pilot you want to learn from.
Absolutely.
But
well, I love this interview personally because I feel like I didn't even have to talk. You know, he's one of those guys, like, you just sit back and you just listen, and anytime you have a question about something, he's already answered it. So, you know, it could have just been the Arnie Easterly show, really. I mean, well, with Rob poking and prodding here and there, but that, to me, I enjoy just sitting down and just hearing these guys' stories like that.
Well, we've got some more of these guys in the queue.
Oh, I know. Yeah, we got a lot of them out here.
And, yeah, because I mean, we have an abundance. Truly a gifted bunch of people.
Well, Rob, this was amazing.
I certainly enjoyed it.
I got to get off and go get a couple airplanes ready to fly, so I got to get going. But thanks for joining us again on another episode of Winged Victory. And for Arnie Easterly, my partner Rob, William, and the producing back there behind the scenes, and myself, Scott Clares, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks.